Hello and welcome. The topic for today is nanoparticles or nanoscience. And when we're talking about nanoscience, we are dealing with particles which are very, very small indeed. We're talking in the range of 1 to 100 nanometers in size. Now, to give you an idea, a nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter. That's 1,000 millionth of a meter. We generally tend to work with millimeters and micrometers on a daily basis in science, but this is actually a much newer technology dealing with particles that are much smaller. So the first thing that you need to be aware of really is that they're very small, and they're of the region of 1 to 100 nanometers in size, and we're roughly talking a few hundred atoms. The size is just a few hundred atoms. The other thing you need to know about them is that they have a very large surface area to volume ratio. What that means is, for the amount of material you have a very massive surface area, and if you've got a massive surface area and that surface area is useful for something, then that makes them very useful. Now, the kinds of things that they're used for, or they can be used for, vary, and I'm going to go through a few of them now. But what you've got to remember is you're not actually required to remember what all the different uses are. You're not supposed to memorize the specific examples, but you should be aware of what we mean by nanoscience and what nanoparticles are and how big they are. Okay, so I'm just going to go through a few examples very quickly because you don't need to really memorize them, but just to give you an idea of the kinds of things they can be used for. So if we start down here, they can be used for catalysts. Catalysts speed up chemical reactions, and if we've got nanoparticles with their massive surface area and chemical reactions can happen on that surface area, then we have much faster reactions, and it can be used in the chemical industry to speed up chemical reactions. Another use that is actually currently being used for is suntan cream. That big surface area actually helps us to absorb much more UV light from the sun, and therefore makes a suntan cream much more effective. It can be used for deodorants as well. So the cosmetic industry is very interested in these nanoparticles. Something else we can use it for is in the medical industry. We talked previously in a video about the fullerenes of a substance called C60. We called this Buckminster fullerene, if I remember, and this is a particle that's only made of 60 atoms, and it can be used for delivering drugs. And we said it could contain a drug inside here, and that could be used in the body to deliver a drug that could be potentially dangerous but delivered to a specific area where it could kill some harmful cells. We can use it for antiviral, antifungal uses as well. There are uses in the construction industry as well. It makes a stronger, lighter material. Let me just write that in. Can be used for example, aircraft bodies, which would make them much lighter, make them much more fuel efficient. And if you remember previously, we looked at a substance that was called a nanotube, and this is a very tiny, again, particle, but it can be used for conduct electricity, and it's very strong and in fact very light as well. If computers had this material inside them, they would be able to make very tiny circuits, which could make them much more powerful. And the last thing really is it could be used for coatings as well. For example, I saw an example where it was talking about self-cleaning windows, where sunlight caused a reaction with these nanoparticles that help to clean off dirt. Okay, and there are many more fascinating potential uses for these things, but you're not really required to know all of them. Just be aware of the kinds of things they can be used for, and any new example they give you in the exam will be based around the fact that they have a very large surface area to volume ratio, and then they are very small. So these things are what you want to peg your answers around when you're being asked to evaluate a new substance. Okay, so that's a brief overview of nanoscience and nanoparticles, and thanks for watching. See you again soon.